got a bit of spare time on my hands at the moment, as have most people, so I thought I'd use that spare time to play some old video games. Unfortunately, the first game I picked was Ren and Stimpy, Stimpy's Invention on the Megadrive, or Genesis if you live in America. Now I ended up beating this game twice, and I'll explain why in a minute. But those two playthroughs have shown me that this is not a good game. It's broken in some areas. I've made the game glitch out to the point where I had to reset the game and start again, and I was quite far through at that point as well. And there's so many moments where you can't help but take damage from an enemy, which I don't think is good programming. It's not a good game, but it does look good and it sounds good too, but graphics and sound don't make a good video game in my eyes. The reason I played through it twice was because the first time I completed it on medium, it ended really abruptly, and I thought that can't be it, there must be more to it. So I decided to set it to hard mode and play through it again. Now this is completely my own fault, not the game's fault. But hard mode basically gives you less lives, but it's essentially the same game, no extra enemies, no extra levels, nothing like that. Now I was expecting maybe another level and a boss or something at the end, but it didn't have any of that. I just made the game more difficult for myself and wasted a load of time essentially. Anyway, that's enough talking. Let's take a look at this absolute mess. When you first switch the game on, you're kind of greeted with a bit of false hope, with Log pulling the Sega logo along. But if you leave the game long enough, that false hope is soon dashed. If you watch the demo of the, I don't know who it is, but whoever played this game and recorded this to show us footage of gameplay footage is so bad. They can't even get past the flamingos right at the start. It just shows you how little effort was put into this game, I think. I also want to add that the Log jingle at the beginning and the rendition of the Ren and Stimpy theme are both very good. Like I said earlier, graphically the game is good. Everything looks like it's from the cartoon, but you get an instant idea of how difficult the game is from this first bit. You have some flamingos to pass which aren't as hard as the demo makes them out to be, but still not so easy to get through without being hit at least once. And one issue with the level is the fences in the foreground often cover the holes in the road you need to jump. Annoying. But all in all, this is the easiest area by far. Then we have this little Segway section walking through the house to climb through the freezer. I like the idea of climbing through the freezer to get into the level, and I also like the horse in the background at the beginning holding open the door. Straight out of an episode. Not much else to say about this bit, as it is just a Segway. Now we're in the freezer, we got some platforming jumps, which you need to use the double team jump for in some areas. Easy enough as long as your partner keeps up. If not, Powdered Toast Man usually comes to the rescue, although frustratingly not every time. Then we have a problem area, the walrus digging section, which is almost impossible not to lose health on. On one playthrough there was no walrus on the bottom section for a minute until I walked to the left and back to the middle. Not sure what that was about. I also managed to fall through the hole to the next level, and Powdered Toast Man attempted to lift me back out, but luckily the next level started anyway. The zoo. I'm not sure if this is the worst level exactly, as there are a few strong contenders, but I really dislike this one. The hippo jumping section is difficult, but pales in comparison to the giraffe section. I never realised giraffes were so vicious, but they attack mercilessly and are almost impossible to dodge, as you have to get really close to start the animation of them attacking. I died quite a few times here, but one strategy I found that works is to jump behind your partner and use him as a human shield, although it's not guaranteed to work 100% of the time. But if it does, congratulations, because you're on to the next section. The monkey section can catch you out, as there's 2 monkeys attacking you instantly and you only have the briefest amount of time to react. The best thing to do here is go up and over everything. It's much safer. There's small monkeys on the floor who constantly respawn, and the giant ones you can only briefly stun. Get through it as quickly as possible or you will die here. The Aviary is the title winner for the worst level. I can't tell you how much I hate it. Give me the water level in Turtles any day over this. Your partner gets in your way, you uncontrollably fly around the screen and everything hurts you. It's so frustrating, broken and just bad. The less we say about this level the better, but you'll soon regret speeding through that monkey level. The city confused me, as the first level is just so unclear as to what you have to do and where you have to go. It's a huge level with no direction, although fairly simple once I'd realised you just go to the right. But in some places you lose health if you fall off of a ledge, and in other places you progress. The level seems to loop as well, which added to my confusion. I also managed to get stuck off screen here, meaning I had to reset the game and start from the beginning. Joy. Ultimately, the level left me feeling lost. Was it constantly looping, as I was meant to have found an item to progress? And how was I meant to know if I was leaping to my death or was I progressing to the next bit? It's just a huge sprawling mess. Now we're on a bike. This bit took me completely by surprise and I died instantly. The game throws you into the deep end a couple of times with no time to react, which is just completely unfair. Once I figured out what the buttons were, A being pedal and C being jump, I managed to make my way through this section, but it is difficult. It's hard to jump over the cars, I kept getting hit by everything, and the pothole jumps at the end are absolutely insane. You have to be so pixel perfect to make it over them without getting hurt. I died here so many times. I dislike this level, but nowhere near as much as the Aviary. I think some kind of indication of what was about to happen in the controls before this level started would have really helped, as this level plays completely differently to the rest of the whole entire game. Now we're on to the Pound. This is one of the better levels of the game, although still not without fault. We've got balloons in the foreground obstructing the view of falling bricks, and some finicky climbing and jumping to get through, but nothing too infuriating. Although it's pretty hard not getting hit by the falling weight at the end, but at least you get some health topped up to lose instantly. Pretty short but sweet level. Apparently we're wrestling now. Just like the bike section, you're thrown in completely at the deep end with no idea what to do here. It turns out all you have to do is dodge the wrestler. You can't attack him, there's nothing you can do other than dodge his jumps. Sometimes he jumps pretty low and it seems to be impossible to dodge it. The best strategy is keep as far away from him as possible to make him do a long jump and run underneath him. The outdoor section looks like some of the most surreal sections of the Ren and Stimpy cartoon, although there is nothing like this in the episode Stimpy's Invention. In fact, none of what we've seen so far actually appears in the episode at all. The level isn't too bad, other than the mosquitoes that knock you off of the nose hairs that you have to climb, as you can't attack them whilst climbing. And there's a couple of blind jumps which generally end in getting hit by enemies you didn't know were there. At the end of the level you've got to ride a flying bike to find the last piece of Stimpy's invention, which takes you to the last level. Carrying on with the surreal theme, you get snorted up by a beaver. Now this beaver does actually feature in the episode Stimpy's Invention, but he does not snort up Ren and Stimpy. Then you're stuck in a beaker, which you have to jump from bubble to bubble here to escape.
but the bubbles pop if you stand on them for too long, and the new ones don't seem to appear often enough to jump over, making this bit fairly frustrating, and losing your partner so you can't do the higher jumps only worsens the situation. I also couldn't figure out how you're meant to get through this electrode bit. My favourite tactic was to just jump and hope for the best. I encountered a glitch on these candles, which are meant to swap back and forth so you can pass through, but for some reason the first one just stayed on and got bigger until it killed me, even though I walked away from it. Weird. I also struggled to figure out the timing for these hot bulbs. I'd pretty much given up caring by this point, so I just jumped and hoped for the best again. Then you need to jump on these bellows with both characters to blow out the candles and run past before they relight. No issues here really. And now for the grand finale, pressing 4 switches to turn off Stimpy's invention. They return back to the starting place if you take too long. Just avoid the spark, which moves from left to right and right to left again. Fairly simple. And what's the grand prize for all of this struggle? A few bars of Stinky Whizzle Teats classic Happy Happy Joy Joy, and then straight back into the Ren and Stimpy theme song. Well, at least it ended on Happy Happy Joy Joy like the episode.
So can you see why I thought there might be more? 4 switches is the worst final boss I've ever come across in any game ever. And the final level is an absolute breeze compared to the levels preceding it. Can't believe I struggled through it all on hard mode just to get the same ending as I did in the medium. What a waste of time. I could have probably completed another game within that time, but that is completely my own fault. That isn't the game's fault. But I've got to say, I'm never ever ever playing that game ever again, and neither should you. I've done the hard work, so you don't have to. I'm kind of a humanitarian in that respect. What have you ever done? Nothing, probably. Anyway, like and subscribe, or don't bother, I don't care. Thanks for watching.